Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about True Lies Season 1, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I do love this being kind of like the relationship episode because it's like you kind of see three different relationship dynamics. I mean, technically four relationship dynamics throughout the entire episode, and just how the complicated natures of each one. Like, well, first and foremost, there's Harry and Helen's situation this episode, where obviously it's Helen's birthday and Harry ends up, I don't know, the dinner situation ended up being a disaster, but then on top of that, he ended up giving her the same gift that she's literally wearing right then and there that he got her 3 years prior. Now, I thought the justification was like, well, to be fair, I mean, justification ended up being kind of in the same ballpark. It's like, well, it had to be the mission in 2020 they showed us, like he exploded a bomb. He said it was like from blood loss because a nail pierced his body armor, and like he started losing a lot of blood because he was in such a hurry to see Helen. He didn't want to miss out on her birthday. So I knew, like, right, it is that thing of you might not always go about it the right way, but your heart is in the right place type of situation. But for Harry, just ended up giving her the same gift because he's always compartmentalized everything. Because, I mean, it is something that's what's so interesting about the Helen and Harry thing, is because it's a culmination of just so much. I mean, it's just a personified example of just how Harry has been lying to her the entire time. It's like, yeah, all the gifts and all the planning and stuff like that, it didn't come from Harry's heart, it came from Gibbs. But it's like, yeah, I'm not really good at it. Plus, I've had to balance that with the whole spy thing. But now him and Helen are in a better place because, well, he doesn't have to lie to her anymore. But also, the fact is that they're working together, so they are still spending time together. So it is that things have changed for the better in all aspects, but it comes with its own complication, knowing, hey, the truth about what Harry's been up to, that basically your entire relationship has been alive for 17 years. She kind of seemed like she was, worked past that, but it's still always going to be an underlining element of their relationship, a majority of their relationship. That is, it seemed like Helen got over it pretty quickly, but it's like, no, it's still there because they are just constant reminders of, right, this episode being one of them. So, and it goes back to that element of, well, not all of it was lies. There's truth in those lies. Yes, they were lies, but they were lies created from the truth. And that truth is, I love you and I care about you. And it's like, but it's just Gibb helped organize everything, made sure to get Helen the gifts that she would want and go to the places she would want. So even she's kind of like, it has this nasty connotation to it when you're like, oh yeah, kind of delegate the more romantic elements, like delegating love to someone else. It's like, yeah, I'm in a relationship with you, not in a relationship with you and Gibbs, but it feels like I am. So you tie that in with this episode where there's a hedge fund guy who runs a corporation, and basically they make money off of tragedies. Like, they basically it's what's the exact wording for it? Basically, they profit off disasters because they're like, hey, we know this terrible thing's about to happen, so we put our money in something kind of saying that, oh, in case this thing kind of goes belly up, we're the ones that come out on top because this guy in charge, Reed, is the one actually causing these disasters and hurting and killing people. Played by, God, I can never remember Samus's last name. Is it like... It's not like Diva or something like that. It's something like that. Once again, I know him from Castle as Detective Ryan, but I'm like, there was something more recent, like super recent, I saw him in, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But yeah, he's in a relationship with Lisa. Lisa's completely unaware of what he's about, and so their job is to get close to Lisa. But, and this is where Helen's kind of like, kind of get this ick that Harry has to lie to her and manipulate her. I think the title of this episode is Honest Manipulations, which has a very ick connotation to it. But it's part of the spycraft element. But it is interesting that I thought Harry was going to go beat for beat like some of the stuff he said with Helen to get Lisa's attention, but it's like, no, he told the story of like, oh yeah, the last time I went on a date or whatever was in second grade, and the girl ended up punching me, and then Helen's like, he said that during our first date, and then she calls, at some point in time, he used reference Muffin as the name of the fake cat they don't have, but for Helen, it's like, no, Muffin's his special name for me. But I love Harry being like, but Muffin's just, it's a word. It doesn't really, it's not just, but I guess it's like, if you call your significant other Muffin all the time, that's just, it's understandable why Helen would be upset. Because it's like, yeah, just because it feels like you're using stuff that between us on the mission as kind of like part of your cover. Which, I mean, that's also the, I've talked about this before. That's what makes a lie good. That's how you keep a solid lie. You don't keep it too far from the truth. You make it easier to remember by keeping it based in some form of reality. So the best lies are those like that have not just a monicum of truth, are mainly truth with a monicum of lie. That's how you keep the lie honest. So, which once again, very icky, but when you come to the spycraft world, that I'm sure that makes that a little easier. So. Then later on, Helen had to approach Lisa, and she was kind of like taking like, oh, men are the worst. And Harry's like, see, she's talking about, and Gibbs like, don't even listen to it, because he has to play middle ground for both of them. Like when Helen was listening to Harry talk to Lisa, and it's just like, see, and Gibbs like, it's part of the mission. And then Helen's saying all this stuff about, yeah, I was suspicious about my husband. Was he having an affair? Was he a spy? And her and Lisa are kind of laughing about it. And just Harry's in the truck, kind of upset by the whole thing. And it's like, oh, and then I found out that no, like she's like, yeah, I thought he was. So I ended up, doing some digging, and turns out my husband was telling the truth and being honest and wasn't lying to me. And it's like, what was it? He was so truthful and considerate. And Gibbs like, see, she's saying nice things. He's like, no, she's saying nice, mean things. And it's like, yeah, understandable. Because she was venting a lot of her frustration, but Harry does ultimately end up telling her, like, yeah, the reason why I didn't remember that I got you that same gift is, remember that blood you saw on my shirt? And I was like, oh yeah, it's from a box cutter or whatever. It's like, no, it was from a nail piercing my body armor, and I lost like 2 pints of blood, and I was kind of out of it, and I didn't remember I got you that same gift 3 years ago. So, because the whole point was that, hey, we got to convince Lisa to help us. Well, initially they were trying to use Lisa to get closer to Reed's information so they could find out, bring the truth to light about what he's really up to. And the sad thing, I can't remember why he had that extra. He was like, oh, I had security or beefed up or whatever. I guess because Lisa was acting a little off and he probably wanted to see what was wrong. But it's like, nope, like the fact of the matter is I know exactly where you are, Lisa, and she was in his office. So, and then she ended up finding out, like, wait, just all the stuff that Helen's been feeling, now Lisa personifies that, because it's like wait, so you guys manipulate me? You guys are the worst. It's like, they're not giving, Harry aren't thinking too much about that, but also, like, Helen's the one that feels the worst about it, because Lisa's, it's like, right, I didn't mean to lie to you, but once again, it's for the greater good, because, it's like, yeah, because if we don't do this, like, a whole bunch of people are going to die, because the plan is, like, to, blow up a cruise ship next. And I love that it's like, even Lisa's like, no, there's no way Reed, would do something terrible like that. And Harry's like, he is literally shooting at us right now. And I even love the ending of it all being like, right, was any of that the truth? And she's like, yes, all of it was. Well, at the same time, none of it was. Once again, personifying the title of the series, True Lies. Yeah. But like I said, it wasn't just their relationship. Their relationship, I think it's kind of interesting. There's like 4 relationships that are, Harry and Helen are like good by the end. He even got her a sentimental gift of like, hey, they had that nail that was still stuck inside of me, which I'm like, why would they keep that? But okay, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like supposed to be a record of like they keep track of everything mission wise or something like that. So either way, he kind of turned it into a necklace. I mean, it seemed very like I'd be worried that point would stick in. Helen, but the sentimentality behind it is what counts. The memory and what it really means and what it signifies, and it was something he came up with on his own. So that because it's one of those things of anything is fine as long as it comes from the heart. So there's that. So they're in a better place, obviously. There's the Quinn and Luther thing, which I wasn't like the last time they interacted in the show. I was like, oh, it seemed like something's kind of going on there. Like, I don't know if like Luther's aware of it, you could tell like Quinn kind of likes him, and then like they're showing off the new laser pen, the enhancements and stuff, and Maria's looking at their interactions like, okay, something's going on here. Are you wearing the cologne that I got you back when we were dating? He's like, yeah, so, and so, which is, I was like, oh, that probably is a little weird. And then Maria just keeps pushing the entire episode, being like, I know you guys there's something going on there. It's like, oh, like you think the laser pen is cute? It's like, oh, it is. Oh, you're using it at every opportunity you can? He's like, well, yeah, it's handy. It's like, go ahead, just admit that you two are going out. And he's like, well, he's like, at first I didn't want to say anything because I felt like it'd be weird. It seems like it's bothering you. She's like, no, of course it's not bothering me that you used a cologne that I got you when we were dating to move on. Of course it wouldn't. I was like, oh, it does bother her. She's trying to act like it doesn't. Like I said, because I don't think Luther has that. I brought it up in maybe last episode or episode before last. I brought it up. Like that episode with Luther and Maria, he passed out before he heard what Maria said about why they broke up. So I don't think Gibbs was on calm at that time. I think Maria had probably I think she specifically had turned those off so they could talk. So I don't. No one caught that conversation, so Luther probably doesn't know, but you just, I think the underlining thing is it's always been there, and now it's just kind of a thing of like, oh, you moved on. It's like, I don't know, we don't know if Maria actually has she dated since Luther and her broke up, because I don't think Luther's dated since then. I think Quinn's the first time since, but either way, and it's just like her being so not bothered by it, and especially with him being like, hey, if something happens to me, I need you to let Quinn know that I was thinking about her. Maria's just like, I'm not going to, and then went full, you know what, I got this, let's get this done, and says later on, right, if you died or whatever, I'd have to do all the extra paperwork. But it's like, he's like, wow, you really didn't want to be responsible for giving my message to Quinn, did you? And so when they get back to the office, Quinn's like, oh, I'm glad you're okay. Oh, I'm glad the rest of the team's okay. It's like, it's okay. She knows. And Quinn's like, oh, thank goodness. I was getting nervous about the line. And then super hardcore makes out with Luther, and he has to kind of wave Maria away, and she's kind of like, yeah, she's staring and watching. It's just like, oh, it's like, oh, that's actually really sad. That it's like, you can tell that's kind of cutting her deep. So I definitely see that being a situation where we probably see that bothering her a lot more in the future. But we'll have to wait and see. So we had that, which once again kind of has its own complicated nature to it. Circling back, Lisa and Reed, completely, that relationship blew up because it's like, hey, you thought he was one person, but he turned out to be a completely different person. At least in Harry and Helen's case, it's like, oh, Harry might be lied about certain things, but I'm starting, to know, hey, who he is at his heart is still the same person. Reed's a terrible human being because he was killing people and making a massive profit off of it, so... Because, yeah, they had found the bomb. They had evacuated people off that cruise, and they found the bomb that he was going to use to blow it up, too. So, there's that. Then we have the Gib and Ava situation, where it's like, hey, every time he has an automatic system that texts her, which is a little I can see where Helen was coming from. I was thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, are we going to find out that Eva was... I was thinking, maybe we're going to get the reveal that she was actually doing the same thing. I thought that was going to be the interesting... But for him, it's like, hey, this way, he tries to justify it, just the whole element of, hey, I might have created... Yeah, it might be a program doing this, but it's because I do care about her. I want her to know I'm always thinking about her. But sadly, she found out in the end of the episode. Not because anyone told her, she ended up looking through the mission log, because how are you texting me... these little things while you were literally in the middle driving an ambulance during a chase? It's like, you wouldn't have had time to do that. And he's like, yeah, and he has to admit that it's a program, and she ends up breaking up with him. Now, whether or not they could fix that or not, I don't know. But but for her, it's like, I want to date someone who's real. I don't want to date a robot. I don't want to date an AI program. I want someone, a living person that loves me. Once again, it's that thing of, hey, it comes from a good place. It just for Gibbs' situation, it didn't work out. You know, it's a situation. I mean, we don't know what his relationship situations have ever been. Like, we don't know if this is like the first like serious relationship he's ever really been in a long time or what. But it could be like, you know, it's just like, right, it's that thing of, it's a new relationship, you want to be everything to be perfect, and you're once again, you're kind of compartmentalizing a little bit. It's kind of like the spy thing anyway, but I guess like it's a little applicable with, because he never saw anything wrong with the Helen situation, so of course he wouldn't see anything wrong with it. And at least Harry's learned now, like, okay, don't go about things that way, try to handle things on your own. Sadly, you know, Gibb continue with it. I mean, Harry was still, well, because he did still try. So this episode was based around him trying, and him trying is what kind of screwed up when he literally got Helen the same present. You know, he'd given her 3 years prior. But then you know, Gibb was really leaning into the automatic like texting thing. But we don't know how. I mean, how long has he been doing that? Which is also a shame too, because based around the last episode, he was like, his dad wanted to meet her too, so they probably already met too. Hopefully, maybe. But because we don't know, once again, because the Quinn thing with Luther happened pretty quickly, but we don't know how much time passes between each episode. Like, it could be like days, it could be weeks, or, you know, type of situation. So, but it is kind of heartbreaking to be like, oh, I was, you know, like I said, it's just like 4 different relationships. So things are great, things are awkward, things are completely broken with one relationship for the better. Once again, the Lisa and Reed thing, that's for the better. But then, like, you have this sad situation with the Ava and Gibb of it all. Once again, just kind of different people taking different things around, like, you know, the conversation of honesty and stuff like that, and honest manipulation. It's just interesting how it's affected 4 different couples throughout the episode. And I think that's the whole point of it all. So I'm hopeful that everything can work out between Gibb and Ava. I wonder how much of an impact that's going to have on him, and once again, how much of an impact, like, the whole Quinn and Luther thing is going to have on Maria, and what that partnership is going to be like going forward. We'll also have to wait to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.